Hey, I'm Jhone, and you're in the Gen Zone. Welcome back and Happy New Year. Now, this episode, we wanted to take a look back on some moments that we had throughout the year. Now, when we started this season, the president announced that the pandemic was over. However, COVID was not. Yes, there's a difference, folks. So let us reflect on some of the COVID coverage that we covered this season. I have to ask, what is going on with COVID?
The pandemic is over. The pandemic that lasted over 2 years took the lives of millions worldwide and permanently changed our healthcare freedom. Speaking of, now that restrictions are relaxing, will the workers who lost their jobs after choosing not to get vaccinated be offered rehire? The New York State Supreme Court has ordered New York City to rehire and pay back wages to government employees who were fired for refusing to take the COVID-19 vaccine.
1 week, they telling us get triple boosted. The next week, they're saying that Dr. Fauci is about to be investigated for forcing schools and businesses to close.
Do you wish to retract your statement of May 11th where you claimed that the NIH never funded gain-of-function research in Wuhan?
Senator Paul, I have never lied before the Congress, and I do not retract that statement. And if anybody is lying here, Senator, it is you.
And of course, they were talking about COVID, RSV, and the flu.
That with the combination of the evolution of variants, as well as the seasonal aspects, that as we get into this coming late fall and winter, it is likely that we will see another variant emerge. And there's already on the horizon one that looks suspicious.
Then y'all wonder why we don't trust y'all. Even the CDC comes out and says that they've made mistakes.
I think our public health infrastructure in the country was not up to the task of handling this pandemic. We made some pretty public mistakes and we need to own them.
Right now, no one knows what is what or who to trust. This year, the midterms were the center of the political world. Here on the Gen Zone, we stress the importance of being a part of your local elections just as much as the presidential election. Let's take a look back at the midterms. We're reviewing some of the election results from the midterm elections, and it is not the red wave that was predicted by so many people. However, Stacey Abrams did lose the governor race in Georgia to Brian Kemp.
All things considered, she has time and again kind of not reinvented the way she goes about like bettering the system, but she's relentless and she doesn't give up, and I have to admire that. Winner or not, she's fighting for something, and I think that's what politics is kind of really about. It's like, what do you believe in and how much are you willing to fight for it?
In Georgia, you are allowed to challenge a vote. Any citizen can challenge a vote if they feel like it's questionable. So how many of those votes were challenged? How many were challenged in African-American neighborhoods, right? In addition to the gerrymandering that has happened.
Midterm elections are about your local elections. It's not necessarily about what President Biden is doing and his efforts and his progress. What do you guys think about that?
So it's not just the president, right? It is your legislators that stop this. It is your governor who makes the decisions on who can vote, when you can vote, right? What your taxes look like in your state, right? Can you go outside? It's not the president. They want to blame Biden like, oh, all his bad policies. He is putting money in the pockets of the American people. He is spending, but he is spending on us so that we can start spending within our states and in our communities and things like that again. So I think we just need to take all that into consideration when it comes to voting in the midterm and looking at the different talking points and why they're kind of structured the way they are.
We also believe the importance of being informed on international politics and foreign affairs. Let's take a glimpse overseas from this past season.
Queen Elizabeth died over a month ago, and we didn't get a chance to give her proper recognition for being the longest reigning queen of the century. God bless the Queen. May she rest in peace, not power. She's had enough of that. I got a whole issue with this Ukraine war. And on the other side, our president is calling on the entire world to support Ukraine. On TV, we all saw the citizens of Ukraine fleeing as missiles destroyed their country. President Zelensky famously said he doesn't need a ride, he needs guns. And as of today, we have given Ukraine $16 billion Media, left and right, will have you believe that having any uncomfortable feelings or opinions about Islam is Islamophobia, and nothing could be further from the truth. The truth is, there is a massive difference between peaceful Muslims and Quran-following Muslims. Assalamu alaikum, my people. Majority of the Muslim people I've encountered are good. We've all heard about the protests in Iran in reaction to the 22-year-old Mahsa Amini dying while in custody. Allegedly, her hijab was a little crooked and her hair was showing, so she was arrested by the morality police. If that doesn't send chills down your spine, you put on a tank top and go to Iran. No? What's crazy is that this is how typical Iranian women dressed in the 1970s, and this is how they dress today. So what happened? The Islamic Revolution. So now we have the first female prime minister of Italy. Some say she's a fascist that is a part of the same party launched by Benito Mussolini. Some say with the same extreme views. For all the Gen Z people who were robbed of education, Mussolini was a part of the Axis powers of World War II. Basically, Hitler's partner in the war. Is World War III upon us? Because it feels like that's what Biden is implying. Once nuclear weapons fall into the same sentence as Putin, Iran, North Korea, the media starts pressing their life alert button. Rumors like Putin might be terminally ill and just doesn't give a what happens at this point. What are we supposed to do if a nuclear weapon is fired at us? Shelter in place, stop, drop, roll, pop, lock, drop it?
Q has gone international. The Reichsbürger movement and their leader, Prince Heinrich XIII, were planning to overthrow the German government. And they are followers of QAnon. And apparently they felt like they were gonna make Germany great again. Wrong? Will Puerto Rico become our 51st state? Puerto Rico! Congress has passed a bill that would allow Puerto Rico to hold the first ever public vote on whether to become a state or gain some sort of independence. With the Senate split evenly, it's no telling whether the bill will go any further. However, if passed, Puerto Rican citizens will vote on 3 options: statehood, independence, or a freely associated state.
Gen Zone.
Okay, here on the Gen Zone, if you suck, I'm gonna let you know you suck. But if you do a good job, then we'll applaud you. Let's take a look and see who we gave flowers to this season.
Shout out to Republican Congresswoman Liz Cheney. For those of you that don't know, she's playing a central role in investigating the January 6 events as vice chair for the House Select Committee.
CVS recently announced that they're lowering the price of menstrual products in 12 states. So, is that a yes for Plan B, Texas? That would be a bloody miracle.
But let's give a round of applause to Judge Ralph J. Porzio. We always point out the hypocrisy, but we definitely applaud those in power who not only acknowledge the hypocritical behavior, but actually do something about it. So, another round of applause to the New York Supreme Court. Shout out to Nancy Pelosi. After 35 years in Congress, she's stepping down as the House Democratic leader. Her political journey dates back to the late and great President John F. Kennedy. And in 2007, she became the first woman to ever be elected Speaker of the House.
Starting with Wes Moore. A Democratic political newbie has become the first Black governor in Maryland's history. He's also the only Black governor in the country. Summer Lee, who has served as a Democratic state representative, but is now the first Black woman elected to Congress from Pennsylvania. Soulmates, let's put our hands together for Hakeem Jeffries. The first Black lawmaker to lead a party in Congress, and he has made it clear that he intends to work with Republicans for the benefit of all Americans. Congratulations to Mayor Jalen Smith of Earl, Arkansas. proving once again that the younger generation is paying attention to politics. I keep trying to tell y'all. Mayor Smith is the youngest black mayor in America. At 18 years old, he is now running a whole small town. Wow, I love seeing black people win. Let's give them another round of applause. And with celebrating wins, we also call out the BS and put those people on blast for either talking or acting reckless. Let's see whose spot got blown up on the Gen Zone this season.
We've all heard about this raggedy-ass former LA City Council President Nori Martinez, who resigned from her position after a recording of her making anti-black statements leaked. Racism from a member of another marginalized group isn't surprising, but it's disappointing as hell, especially from an elected official who's supposed to be for the people. Candace, honey, talking bullshit fast doesn't mean you're smart. It just means your breath stinks.
Ew, dragon breath.
They're soft on crime. No, they're not soft on crime. They're pro-crime. They want crime. They want crime because they want to take over what you got. They want to control what you have. They want reparation because they think the people that do the crime are owed that.
Who is they? Let's get it straight. They means the Democratic Party. They want reparations for the people that do crime.
What?
Hold up. The only people that are asking for reparations are black people, and the people that commit crime are called criminals. But clearly, this senator believes only black people commit crimes, and believes that his white voting base believe that black people are all criminals as well. That explains everything I already knew about Alabama. No offense to the good apples in Alabama, but you already know where you live. Y'all's history is atrocious. And this country-ass football coach turned senator who talks like he has CTE when he hasn't played football since 1476 ain't making y'all look no better. The projection is real. It's so hilarious to watch someone who is literally a member of a group who have committed some of the most heinous and significantly obvious crimes on American soil pretend it's all on us.
Republican Representative Boebert then called AOC a sellout in another tweet. First, let's introduce this bitch Boebert. And follow me, because this is a lot of tea. She's a high school dropout whose husband miraculously earns about $500,000 per year through his consulting firm. Boebert Consulting's biggest client just happens to be the largest producer of natural gas. So why does this matter? Oh, maybe because his wife, Representative Lauren Boebert, oversees the energy industry through her position on the National Committee of Natural Resources. Conflict of interest much? And just last year, Boebert Consulting was determined to be a delinquent company for lack of proper registration and government filings. Yet somehow this failed bar owner makes $400,000 plus a year? That's a lot of tips. Do I smell misappropriation of funds? Or maybe your zaddy T-baby gave y'all the cash. So I ask you, who's really the sellout, Mrs. Boebert? Everyone wants a Republican in office because you feel that they're better for the economy. But you should understand that the last 3 out of the 5 recessions were started under Republicans. Reagan, the Bushes, and Trump. And this is after the Democrats that preceded them fixed the economy. Tucker Carlson, you probably have had the most claims and rumors about this whole Hunter Biden scandal. Yet, you conveniently leave out your part in it. Yes, soulmates, Tucker Carlson had his own emails in the infamous laptop, thanking Hunter for writing his son's recommendation letter for Georgetown. Oh, and also asking him to dinner. But why would you trust a drug addict's word for your child's college admission? And why would you want to have dinner with someone that people claim to be a con artist? All words you use on your show to describe Hunter. All the while, behind closed doors, or should I say behind closed laptops, that's your guy. Boy, you sure know how to put on a show. Stop the charades, drop the act, and show some appreciation for the hand that fed your son. The state expects to spend $559 billion on reparations. That seems like a lot of money, but is it? I mean, I commend California and their efforts. I truly do. But is it ungrateful to say that that's just not enough? You mean to tell me that, one, discrimination only took place between the years of 1933 to 1977? 44 years? And secondly, that the only form of discrimination the Black community faced in those 44 years were in housing? Can we just be for real, just for a moment? You cannot put a timestamp on our injustices and discrimination because it's still happening to this very second. And to narrow it down to just one thing is blatantly disrespectful. Our skin color has affected our ability to get jobs, cars, loans, and basic human respect. I mean, I don't know how to really feel about it. I'm on the fence. I'm kinda offended. But on the other hand, it's almost like we have to start somewhere, right? Maybe this is why we haven't received any form of reparations, because the wrong is just too hard to right. I mean, we're talking about hundreds of years of harassment, murder, and lost opportunities. What amount of money could ever make up for that? There will be people who say they care about homelessness, but make comments against every move made to help solve the problem. Like Fox Media pundit Jesse Waters, who immediately complained about Mayor Bass's plan. He called her Queen Karen and an authoritarian. For some reason, people like Jesse Waters, who have conservative views, claim they are for the benefit of America. But clearly, people like him don't like Americans. Isn't it funny how people like him, because trust, he's not alone, will always complain about the ideas that are presented to help the less fortunate, and at the same time, have no ideas of their own? How easy it is for you, Jesse, to connect every homeless person to mental issues or drug addiction. Is that fun for you, to smile and crack jokes about the atrocities of homelessness and do nothing, absolutely nothing about it? At least Mayor Bass is addressing it. Now, this is not to suggest that what Jesse Waters had to say is completely inaccurate, but it was a small fraction of the 40,000 population of homeless people in LA. So stop the cap. Stop lying to people. Mayor Bass is not giving my residence to the homeless. She is building affordable housing, and she has $100 million to do it. But is your first concern about who she hires to do the construction? As long as the money is spent on the homeless, why are you complaining? Do you even live here?
Be happy.
She doesn't even go here.
Jhone.
And of course, we had some ups. Biden is fulfilling yet another promise. Yep, student loan debt forgiveness. And some downs.
There are 6 Republican-led states that took the time to go to federal court to stop Biden's student loan forgiveness program.
And more ups.
Round of applause. President Biden issued an executive order pardoning all prior federal offenses of simple marijuana possession.
And more downs. And they're in federal prison. They have some other crimes attached to that record as well. So this executive order may have dropped that one charge, but these folks ain't free. But we made it through it all. You know, they say the best way to get over pain is laughter. And our QAnon followers gave us plenty to laugh about. Let's take a look back on some of our conspiracies from this season. Our QAnon conspiracies.
QAnon complains that Chinese-owned TikTok is just a guise for spying on Americans and that our current administration is in bed with them. Hillary Clinton and your favorite movie stars are blood-drinking pedophiles.
You know the establishment, the pedophile, child rapist, human blood drinkers who worship Lucifer.
Or President Obama will end up in Guantanamo Bay military prison this weekend.
No matter what you do, do not let him out.
Or My state senator and congressmen are working in D.C. on installing Trump as the elected king.
I am the chosen one.
Q says the organization is part of the New World Order.
There is election fraud because a Chinese company, not Russian, called Connect Incorporated. According to Q, this whole scandal is a Democrat circle jerk. Q says FTX basically bought the Democratic Party and the midterm elections. Q and his followers are now saying that there was no Atlantic slave trade. They're now saying that it was impossible for Europeans to navigate the Atlantic Ocean currents, especially having the slaves rowing the ships. The conspiracy is that we have been misled into believing that all black people come from Africa, when in their reality, we were already here. This week's conspiracy is all about President Biden. It seems that Q has come to the conclusion that our commander-in-chief is a clone. And now I'd like to thank the special guests that joined us here on the Gen Zone. Whether they were running for political office, taking a political stance, or current political office, thank you for sharing with us. And here's what they had to say.
Hello, hello. Thank you for having me on.
Absolutely. Ms. Karen Bass is running for mayor here in the great city of Los Angeles. So, Ms. Bass, would you be able to share with us what separates you from the other candidate? What makes you different?
Oh, so many things make us different, but let me begin by saying that I am a lifelong pro-choice Democrat. I have always been a Democrat, and that reflects my core values and how I have led my life.
What you would do to solve the problem of homelessness here in Los Angeles?
Absolutely. First of all, we have to get people off the street into temporary housing and then into permanent supportive housing. Most important, you get somebody off the street on day one, and before day one is over, you also provide the needed services that the individual needs in order to not fall into homelessness again.
Mr. Harrison, welcome to the Gen Zone.
It's my pleasure. Thank you so much for having me.
Do you have any ideas for how you can bridge the gap between law enforcement and the communities that call for defunding the police?
Getting everybody involved into making sure there's a better and stronger relationships with all the officers in those local departments, those local precincts. So you've seen some of the great work of neighborhood policing in New York City. You've seen some reform plans in Suffolk County regarding our park walk and talk, taking the officers out of the cars, going to the different religious institutions, businesses, community centers, getting to know the residents, and making sure there's an intimacy going forward.
What's the best advice that I could give a male member so that a basic encounter with the police doesn't end up with them being shot?
The one advice I give to my friends and my family, as well as my children, is listen, if you are ever engaged, if you're ever pulled over, make sure you keep your hands on the steering wheel, have your identification accessible, provide it to the officer, answer all the questions, and everything will go according to plan.
And comply.
Of course, absolutely.
Welcome to the Gen Zone, Sky.
Hi, thank you for having me. I feel that Black on Black crime is really a term used by white supremacists and people who want to put the blame on Black people when really we are not any different than any other race. And unfortunately, a lot of the crime that we see in our communities is due to the economy and poverty. And in any city, in any state, in any country, the correlation is always the same. Where you see poverty or more economic inequality, you see more crime. And that's just the facts. In 2020, the murder rate per capita was higher in Oklahoma than in New York and California. So it is not a New York City thing or a Democratic city thing. It's crime is just crime.
Mayor Donald Shaw.
If you don't vote, you don't matter. And I don't want to be crass. I don't want to be crazy. I don't want to sound crazy, but I'm going to tell you the truth. I often say, do you vote? Have you voted? Are you involved? and you tell me no, automatically in my mind, I'm like, why are you talking to me?
Former Congress candidate Baxter Stapleton.
On election night, the New York Times had reported that I won, but then as more votes started to come in, it got closer. And so the gentleman who beat me ended up inching out, got more votes. And so it was just like such an emotional roller coaster.
You know, if you were a Republican, you probably could have sued them or tried to take them to court for voter fraud.
I mean, that's the crazy part about, I think, just what's happening like in Arizona and other places is just like the lack of respect in our institutions. I think that like people think that, oh, like they're higher than the ballot or they're higher than the vote. And I think that just can be so dangerous.
What a year it has been. Thank you for tuning into the Gen Zone, and we'll see you next season.